it's good to be here on this hump day around lunchtime, and I hope everybody's having a great week. Appreciate all the new subscribers, all the new followers over on Twitter, and appreciate, definitely appreciate all the support we got over on HCP, the return of HCP 103 over on D-Styles channel on Monday night. That podcast is right around 600 views right now. So definitely appreciate all that. And by the way, in the chat, y'all let me know if y'all hear me good with the mic. Y'all let me know if the mic's good. Team Batman Boxing already in the building. Salute Cali X. Another poor fight from Spence. 7 fights in 7 years since beating Brooks. So inactive. And yeah, I think it's 7 fights since the fight in 2016. I think he had 2 fights since 2016 and 7 since. So this will be his 8th fight since 2017, which is not very active. And to be fair to Errol Spence, though, that's pretty much all the fighters at the top level at this point, which is the frustrating part. We touch on that pretty much every show, and we'll touch on it again in this show, how these fighters need to get more active, and we need to have a more active year in 2023, and it's not starting off a more active year. D Nice in the building. Appreciate you swinging through. Errol Spence, Keith Thurman. Keith is going to take a break from his Tantra yoga underneath the tree. You know, he's going to pull up the yoga mats, take a break from playing the flute under the tree, and give us a fight. We haven't seen him since last February, fighting a junior welterweight who was just knocked out by a lightweight at welterweight and went the distance with him, and finds himself as the mandatory. Even though he hadn't had a big win since the beginning of the Trump administration, finds himself as the mandatory for Errol Spence's strap. And finds himself the mandatory, but then finds out that he's going to fight in a non-title fight when it should have been a mandatory fight. This is where we're at in boxing. This is the fun part about it, and it's a frustrating sport to follow, but we can never head in the right direction, right? Even when we get like a decent fight, we can never head in the right direction to get finality, to get a climax. It's always, no, wait, just wait. You know, this isn't the one you wanted now, but just wait. Then we'll have the boxing fans tell us, the brainwashed boxing fans with the Stockholm syndrome, yeah, just wait. They're promising it. They're promising that it's going to be next. Hold your horses. They're promising that it will be next. It's going to be next. It's going to be next. They promised it. They were wrong about A, B, C, D, E, F, but we're going to trust them about G. Yes, they're going to be correct about G. Just wait. Yes, I know Errol versus Keith wasn't the one we wanted, and especially in a non-title fight, he's not defending his 3 belts. They're going to do it in Division North, and somehow this guy's going to be able to keep and hold on and squat on those 3 belts. But just hold your horses. We're getting somewhere here. We've been getting somewhere for 5 years, right? We've been getting somewhere for 6 years, and still we're not there. You ever go on a vacation with your kids? Are we there yet? I feel like I'm one of those kids. I'm in the back seat talking to the boxing power brokers, the promoters, the managers, the advisors. Are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. Hold your horses. We'll be there in an hour. We'll be there in another hour. We'll be there in a year. We'll be there in 2 years. We'll be there in 5 years. Just hold your horses. Trust the plan. No, I'm not trusting the plan. Not trusting it. Canelo looks to be back in May. We'll talk about that as well. Possible John Ryder fight. Possibly in the UK. Woo! Imagine Canelo fighting in the UK. Imagine that. Stop crying, Calix. They love to complain about my complaining. Stop crying, Calix. And we'll talk about the surplus of pay-per-views. And, you know, there's not going to be much complaints about the pay-per-views. And by the way, those Tank pay-per-view numbers, are they out yet? Because I want to do my calculations at home to see how many of the Tank Davis super fans actually bought the fight and how many of them watched for free 99 on the hacked up Fire Sticks. So pay-per-views, surplus of pay-per-views. PBC was once free boxing for all, right? Remember those shirts? Hashtag free boxing for all. We're all going to get free boxing. Al Heyman's bringing back free boxing, and now we possibly have Wilder versus Ruiz in April on a pay-per-view. Plant versus Benavidez around the same time on a pay-per-view. Tank versus Ryan around the same time on a pay-per-view. Errol versus Keith. Yoga doing, flute playing Keith, who hasn't won a meaningful fight since the beginning of the Trump administration. All on pay-per-views. You get to buy it. You're lucky to even be witnessing this greatness. All of these great fights between great fighters, you're so lucky to be witnessing. So don't complain about 75 plus tax, which comes out to around $90 per fight. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about being in a recession. Don't worry that people are hurting out there. Don't worry that eggs are literally $1 plus per egg. Not a cart, per egg. Don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. Just purchase the pay-per-view. Give us your $75 plus. I'm not worried about your eggs. I'm not worried about meat being $1 million per pound. Not worried about it. I'm not worried about the consumer. PBC went from free boxing for all to the price of the brick went up, and you're going to pay extra for everything. And the PBC extremist fans, yes. Charge me harder, daddy. Charge me harder, daddy. Charge me more. A lot of hate on Canelo versus Ryder, but Canelo just got hand surgery and Ryder would be the best win in a lot of these dudes' resume, and that's what I'm saying. And if there's anybody I can cut a break for one fight, it would be Canelo, but Ryder, at least a top 10 guy in the weight. And imagine. I've been saying this for a lot of fighters here in North America, whether United States, Mexico, you go to UK to fight, they're going to roll out the red carpet for you. Bud Crawford goes over there to see, I forgot who it was in his camp, in his stable to go fight. And he's like, these fans are insane. And I'm like, go over there and fight. Go over there and fight. You're going to pack Wembley. I'm telling you. Imagine Canelo in UK on UK soil fighting John Ryder in May. And then he circles back to the rematch with Bivol, in which he most likely, on paper, loses. So I can understand it. Like John Ryder in this one, we get past that one, test the hand, and then 3 months later, we're in there with Dimitri Bivol in a rematch. Dimitri Bivol, a guy who I have currently in my top 5 pound for pound. I thought Canelo lost about 10 rounds in that first fight. So if he wants to circle back to that rematch, go ahead. Tough fight. What's up, Lil Joto? Definitely free 99. That was out of pocket. Who even buys pay-per-views anyways? And that's what I hear a lot of. Stop complaining about the pay-per-views because nobody buys them anyway. And, that was interesting to me when you had the exchanges between Errol and Bud, and Errol is telling Bud, nobody's going to buy the pay-per-view anyway because everybody hacks it. Errol's asking for links to fights on Twitter. It's like the fighters don't even support the fighters. Millionaire fighters don't even support the fighters by buying the pay-per-views. And I find that the most flamboyant and extremist fans of fighters don't purchase the pay-per-views. They don't. They're the ones that tell you stop whining, stop crying, and then they come and tell you to stop complaining. They're complaining about you complaining. Canelo better stay away from Bivol, and he won't. And the interesting thing, and I said it right after the fight, he's going to fight Bivol again. And I said that because Canelo is one of those dudes, man. He can't let it go. He can't. You saw that with Messi, right? Messi does whatever with, I don't follow soccer close, but he could not let that beef go. Finally, a week or two later, he apologizes. But alpha dog, type A personality, as soon as they interviewed him after the Bivol fight, what did he say? He said, it cannot end like this. It cannot end like this. It cannot end like this. True to his word, he's going to circle back. He's going to spin the block and fight Dimitri Bivol. So more on that in a minute, but The interesting thing about this Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman non-title mandatory fight, which is hilarious. It's hilarious. Al goes out of his way, and we all know what happens with the rankings, right? He goes out of his way, under the table, whatever he's got to do, grease some palms, and says, hey, and we all saw it last June, July. We saw it. We saw the new rankings come out, and somehow Keith Thurman jumps more active fighters in order to become the mandatory for Errol Spence for the strap. And we're like, negotiations for the Bud fight cannot be going well. Because I see what this is. This is the contingency plan, right? And the frustrating thing for boxing fans is if that was a contingency plan, then let's get it out of the way. But we're into April 2023 with this fight. So it took, since Keith became the mandatory in June, July of last year, it's going to take 9 months, 10 months to finally get on with the fight. Right? Correct? 9 to 10 months. And then after doing all of that work to make sure that Keith becomes the mandatory at 147, they agreed to the fight. It's going to be at 154. Shout out my guy Nando. Appreciate the super chat, and make sure you jab the like. I always forget to say that. I get on my tangents, but please jab the like. If you do one thing, hit that like button right now. Just hit that X and then hit the like, and then pull the chat back up, and we keep it moving. If you do one thing, do that. Bud versus EJ is only a big fight to hardcore. Casuals are oblivious. Is Keith versus Spence official? It's agreed upon. They've announced it through the media. That's what they do now. They announce it through the media. Canelo or Calix, you could see a trilogy here between Canelo and Vival. If you know if Canelo beats him in a rematch, yeah, I would say so. Keith versus Spence is a good fight. The bad news when it comes to Canelo for the PBC is Canelo is out of PBC for 2023, right? He's announcing possibly a Ryder fight in May, Bivol in September. So PBC doesn't have access to Canelo in 2023. That's bad news for the PBC. And I find that this is another interesting observation before we get into Errol versus Keith is when it comes to the PBC in their roster, PBC fighters are never asked. They're never told to cross the street. PBC fighters are never told you got to cross the street in order to get that fight. Canelo versus Plant proved that. In other words, when Bud was over here with Top Rank and people were calling him Top Rank Toby and all the other fighters were with PBC and welterweight, then Bud becomes undisputed at 140, moves up to 147, and he's told, you've got to cross the street in order to have access to PBC fighters. You're not with PBC, you got to cross the street in order to get to my fighters. And everybody just says, okay, yeah, he's got to cross the street. Just nonchalantly, yeah, he's got to cross the street. He can't get those fights. Then he crosses the street, and of course, he doesn't get the fights. But when it came to Canelo's over here with Trust Fund Eddie. Everything's going well. He's got a great relationship with Trust Fund Eddie and Matchroom and DAZN by extension. And he's told, once he comes to Caleb Plant, the final boss at 168, he's told, you got to cross the street and go over to Showtime and Al and PBC in order to get this fight with Caleb Plant. And we're like, wait a second. Why isn't Caleb Plant asked to cross the street to go work with Eddie, Matchroom, DAZN? Why aren't we talking about cross promotion here? Why aren't we talking about keeping Eddie in the picture and Canelo being Canelo and wanting to go after legacy and understanding undisputed matters, and he wants to become undisputed, says, you know what, Trust Fund Eddie, I'm going to go over there for this one fight. I'll be back, Trust Fund Eddie. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to fight this fight with Caleb Plant, and I'm going to go over there, beat White Chocolate real quick, and then I'm going to come back. And then he has to go over to Showtime. And then they strong arm him. They try to force him into a 3-fight deal. And of course, Canelo is not going for that. And then what happens? He ends up signing. Caleb Plant gets $10 million for the B side. And then they start with this narrative that Caleb Plant's not all that good anyway. And then Caleb Plant signs to fight with Benavidez, or it's close to being signed. They announced that fight's going to be happening in the spring. And all of a sudden, Caleb Plant is a huge, huge win if Benavidez beats him. But what I'm saying ultimately is notice the differences there. PBC fighters are never asked, are never told that you got to cross the street in order to get those fights. Other fighters, yeah. You want to work with PBC, you want to work with Al, you want to fight with Caleb Plant, you got to go over to Showtime, you got to go over to Al, you got to make those fights happen that way. Notice the differences. And another interesting thing I saw is Stephen Fulton Jr. is going to fight Figueroa at 126 for a strap up there in February. And on the surface, it's a good fight. And on the surface, look, Errol versus Keith is going to be an entertaining fight on the surface. But like I said, good and meaningful and best are all different words. Good? Yeah, good. You walk up to a girl at the club, she's a 6 or 7. It's good. 159, we're trying to get something moving here. 6, that's fine. But is it a 9? Is it a 10? And what we're saying with these fighters is Errol has options at 147 that you would say that's a 9, that's a 10. Bud's available again. Bud told you to spin the block a month ago. No contract sent, nothing. Bud signed to fight Evanesyan 3+ months ago, and you're just getting around to saying you're going to fight Keith and it's going to be at 154. So there are 9s and 10s available and you can get them, but you settle for the 6s and 7s. So I have to wonder why. Do you not have confidence in yourself? Do you have not have confidence in yourself to walk up to the 9s and 10s? So you're going to settle with the 6s and 7s because you know those are sure things? The key fight's like a 5 or 6. It's like a 5 or 6. It's a good fight. It's an entertaining fight. Fulton Jr. versus Figueroa 2 is a good fight. And that's a good card. Ponce versus Matias, that's a good card. But is it the best and is it meaningful? Is it meaningful to fight Figueroa again? It's a good fight. The first fight was a good fight, but is it more meaningful than Undisputed versus MJ at 122? And by the way, the live gate wasn't for Figueroa fight. The first one wasn't great. It just wasn't good. So MJ at Undisputed at 122, that's legacy. That'll get you on the pound for pound list. But what about Inoue in a small man super fight at 122? Inoue moves up to 122. You do that fight at 122, Fulton Jr. versus Inoue, 122. Why not? Another more meaningful and arguably better fight. Not arguably, it's a better fight. Entertaining, we don't know, but a better matchup, more meaningful. And this is the low standards I talk about. Fans will get mad at you for saying this stuff. Why don't you stop whining? Just stop whining like Figueroa versus, just enjoy it. Enjoy Fulton versus Figueroa. It's those lower standards. Enjoy the 6 sitting there at the bar. Just enjoy her. Like, just take her out on a date, get her number. But I really want to date the 10. I really want to walk up to I want to approach the 10. I have higher standards. No, don't have higher standards. Come down with us. And that's what's happening here. We're asking for bigger fights. We're asking for better fights. We're asking for more meaningful fights. We're asking for you to take us somewhere. It's like I said earlier, the analogy is my kid sitting in the back of the car as we're headed to Disney World. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? No, we're in Mississippi, dude. Like, we're far away. We're far away. And I keep asking these power brokers, I'm the kid sitting in the back. Are we there yet? Are we to Errol versus Bud yet? Are we there yet? No. You got to wait. And then 2018 rolls around. Are we there yet? Nope. Wait. 2019. Are we there yet? Nope. 2020. Nope. Circle the block. You got to cross the street. 2021. The guy crossed the street. Are we there yet? Nope. 2022. Undisputed. No. We're not there yet. Unification with Ugas. We're not there yet. 2023. Are we there yet? Nope. We're going to fight Yoga Matt Keefe, flute playing Keefe, as a mandatory in a weight class where we're not honoring the mandatory. And, oh, by the way, we're going to somehow keep these belts. I know they're going to keep the belts. I just know it. Somehow, Errol is going to not fight at welterweight for over a year and hold on and squat on these 3 belts. Can we get the process moving? Sanctioning bodies, for the love of God, one of your job requirements is if there's no movement, if there's gridlock in these weight classes, get things moving. Start stripping dudes. Stripping. Do you know Jamal Crawford has fought once in the past 800, I think it's up to 840 days. Mal Crawford has fought once in the past 840 days. This dude's like a freaking Haley Comet at this point. And he's still got the belt. It's still there. Leo Santa Cruz hadn't fought in featherweight in, 3 years? This dude went a whole presidential term without fighting in his weight class and still had the belt. Sanctioning bodies, get on it. Get things moving. Strip these dudes. Force them to vacate. If Errol wants to move up to 154 to fight Yoga Matt Keefe, let him go. Let Yoga Matt Keefe go. Let them fight at 154. Let them, after whatever this is, non-title fight, to start competing against the champions at 154. Just stay up there and let things start moving at 147. Let these belts fall down. Let the vacuum happen. Let Boots fight somebody for one of the belts. Let Virgil and Stanionis fight for one of the belts. Let Cody Crowley fight for a belt. Let PED using Conor Benn fight for a belt. Whoever. Let these younger guys start fighting for the belts. Let these fresher faces start fighting for the belts. Get movement in the division and then start forcing unifications. But what is unacceptable is for the 2 top fighters in the weight class to not fight each other for 5 years. That's number one, because that causes gridlock. And then they start to consolidate the belts and still don't fight each other. So now everybody underneath is not fighting each other. And none of them have an opportunity to fight for the belts because one of the dude with 3 of the belts decides he wants to fight a non-title fight at 154 against his mandatory at 147. So now nothing is happening. And I'm supposed to be super excited about it. Calix over here. Oh, yeah. Errol versus Keefe in a non-title fight. I'm so ecstatic about it. While the dude squats on his 3 belts. So what I want to see is the belt stripped. What I want to see is these sanctioning bodies grow a pair and start to work for the boxing fans who want to see movement, who want to see conclusions, who want to start to see who's the best fighters in these weight classes, particularly the sexy weight classes like welterweight or middleweight. Sexy weight classes who are, speaking of 1 through 10s, are 1s. Welterweight's a talented division. Nobody's denying that, but how good is it? We don't know. They're not fighting each other. 3 top 10 matchups, all of 2022 in the weight class. Stanionis versus Butayev, Spence versus Ugas, Crawford versus Evanesian. So let's get these younger lions fighting for these belts. Let's let them have opportunities for straps. And I love these dudes who like to speak out and virtue signal that they're pro fighter, that we're for the fighters. We're for the fighters. So if Errol wants to do this, let's give him some leeway, man. Let's be for the fighters. How about the contenders? I know you're for the A-side fighters. You say it all the time. You're virtue signaling. But what about the B-side fighters? What about the contenders just waiting there like, dude, are we going to get a shot? Is this dude literally going to be able to sit on these belts for a couple of years and not fight anybody at 147? Is that what's going to happen here? Because that's what it looks like. Is this dude literally going to fight as mandatory in a non-title fight, a weight class north, and be able to sit on these belts? Is that what's going to happen here? I understand the sport is corrupt. I get it. I understand the money thing. I have the managers tell me all the time about, oh, it's about the money. It's about the money. What I'm saying is if it's about the money, you better keep the fans in house. You better start thinking long term because you're going to have more people leave the building, Elvis style. You keep doing stuff like this. How does this resemble a sport at welterweight? How does a dude fight the guy who is supposed to fight for the championship in a non-championship fight? What was all that work put in for? Greasing palms. I understand it's corrupt, but if you're going to be corrupt, we knew it was corruption when Thurman jumped the rankings to number 1 and became the mandatory last June, July. We knew it. I talked about it at the time on this very podcast. We knew what that was about, but it took you 10 months to get to the fight. And then the fight, after doing all that work, is going to be a non-title fight in a different weight class. And I'm going to have the people already know, what about Bud? What about Bud? What about Bud? Is it not clear to you at this point that Bud has been frozen out by the PBC? Is it not clear to you at this point? At this point, if you're blind to it, you'll forever be blind to it. There's nothing that's going to wake you up. This has been an aging out process, and it continues. And we talked about this when the Evan fight was signed. We talked about it. It's just watch. They're going to take a while. And I thought it actually, I gave him too much credit because I actually thought it was going to be the week after the Evan fight. I thought they were going to announce the Thurman fight then. But they actually waited a full month after the fight to announce it. That's how much the aging process has happened. Aging it out. They don't want any part of Bud. So when I'm told, oh, you're a hypocrite because you paid, I got dudes screenshotting me, quote tweeting me. You said that Bud on pay-per-view, you supported the fight. First of all, the fight was half off compared to the other fights. Second of all, you told me all these years that Errol's got all the leverage, Tank has all the leverage, that these guys can sit back and call the shots. So why aren't they calling the shots then? Why are they not demanding the best fights then, number one? And number two, if Bud doesn't have any leverage, I got to take what I can get, right? If Bud versus Evan is the best we can do at the time, and Bud says when he signs the fight, I still want to fight Spence next. And then Bud, after dispatching of Evan the week after, comes on Twitter and says, hey, spin the block. Come back around. I'm ready. I'm ready whenever you are. And the contract is never sent. What am I supposed to make of that? Calix, my guy, Spence Thurman is already fight of the year and better than any upcoming fight. Damn, this fight sucks. Tony Harrison is right there. And like I said, Remy, earlier, it's on the surface, it's a good fight. But a couple of issues with it is there are much better options. There are much more meaningful fights. And on top of that, it's this over marinating that continues to happen, right? You're giving us a fight that everybody was demanding in 2018. You're giving it to us in 2023. You're giving us a fight that everybody demanded in 2018. Nobody's 2023, and you're putting a $75 plus price tag on it. And by the way, none of the straps are going to be up for grabs. So it purposely, they do this because obviously this is purposeful. And I don't know what the end game here is. Possibly the end game is we're moving up to 154 with Spence. You'll never see him at welterweight again. If that's the case, drop the belts. If that's the case, be honest with the people. Be good to the fans who have given to you throughout your career and say, you know what? I'm going to drop the belts. I'm going to let these hungry young lions, but what's going to happen is they're going to play both sides of the field, I'm sure. We're going to be up here at 154, feel things out, see how it goes at this weight. We're going to hold on to these belts at 147 in case we want to drop. We'll still hold those belts for leverage in case Bud comes back to or we offer Bud a contract in the future, whatever they want to do. whatever they want to do. But you know, fighters like Boots, I don't know what you do until the mandatory process starts working for you. Until the sanctioning bodies are there for guys like Boots. Boots can't get the fights. He can't get the fights. And if Boots can't get the fights, like I said, he needs to stay more active. He needs to be better to himself. He needs to stay more active, or move up weight classes, Paul Williams route, and give up some of his attributes in order to lure bigger name fighters into the ring with him. I don't even know if that'll work anymore, to be honest. Fighters are so risk averse, they still might not fight him at 160. Who knows? But the sanctioning bodies need to work for guys like Boots. They need to work for guys like Boots so Boots can get the fights. But if you have a guy squatting on 3 belts who isn't going to fight at welterweight for at least a year and a half, what's Boots going to do? Virgil versus Stanionis, they can fight for a Reggie belt, but real boxing fans aren't going to respect them as champions winning a Reggie belt. So what do? Gridlock. We continue to have gridlock at welterweight. So, I mean, what do you do with that? Start working for the fans. I'm just asking as a fan, what's keeping me here? What is this? What is this? Is this acceptable today? Like, is it acceptable? Let me ask you a question. Let me ask the chat a question. Like, back in the day, 15 years ago, let's just say 15 years ago, and I'm going to sound like the fuddy-duddy sitting on a porch. Stop skateboarding on my lawn. But look, 15 years ago, fights like Wilder versus Ruiz, Plant versus Benavidez, Errol versus Keith in a non-title fight, Tank versus Ryan. How many of those would have been on pay-per-view? How many? How many do you think? 1 through 4. How many do you think? Maybe Tank versus Ryan, maybe. 15, 20 years ago, how many of those would have been on pay-per-view? And this is how far they moved the goalposts on us. It's, you're going to get what we give you, and you're going to be happy. 20 years ago, 2 decades ago, these wouldn't have been on pay. But the business model has changed. You don't understand, old man. You don't understand. Stop complaining. The business model has changed. You want to see your favorite fighters fight? Take what you can get. And I'm being told that once again. I'd rather see Errol versus Keith than nothing at all. Is that it? Like, I'd rather see Errol versus Keith than negotiations. Is that it? Like, that's your standards? Look at how much they dumb you down. Look at how much they beat you down. And if you're that beat down, leave. You're Tina at this point. Make What's Love Got to Do with it and walk out if you're that beat down. I'm ready to get here on a podcast and still talk trash to the power boxing brokers about how crappy they've been. But if you're that beat down to where you say, I'll take it. It's all I can get. Funny, all the aerosexuals were shitting on Crawford, but now they have nothing but excuses for the way Spence is moving. Floyd and Manny can come back and get anyone they want. Blame Canelo. Bud versus EJ going to happen. Bud got greedy fighting the other guy. Yes, Calix, I argued with an aerosexual the other day about Bud being froze out by the PBC. He was in complete denial. And that's the thing, man. Like, it's like shooting at zombies. Unless you get that brain shot, like that kill, you thread the needle, they're going to keep coming. Like, they're just going to pop back up. You ever fight like these dudes? You ever fight them in the comment section or on Twitter? Like, you ever just try to decide one day, I have time. I have time today. I'm going to battle these dudes in the comment section. I'm going to battle the aerosexuals in the comment section. I'm going to battle these guys in the comment section. So you just take up arms and you're like, here they come. And you start shooting your best shots at them. And then they just keep coming. They just keep popping back up. Unless you get that brain shot. But now in 2023, even if you get that brain shot, they're going to pop back up. There's no defeating these guys. None. They cannot be defeated. They're zombies. And even the brain shots don't work anymore because these dudes they don't have brains. So you hit them in the brains and just pop back up. You're all up in the comment section just spraying everywhere. And they're just popping up, popping back up, popping back up. It's like, damn. These dudes have Carlos Baldomir chins in the comment section. They just do not stop coming. How would you praise Canelo versus but crap on Spence versus Thurman? I told you. Track record. Number one. And I know I'm getting somewhere. And a UK fight for Canelo. Canelo going on the road and fighting in the UK. Watch it. Watch it. Watch. You want to see 100,000 fans going crazy? Watch it. And then I know I'm getting Bivol 3 months later. I know I'm getting a top 5 pound-for-pound matchup, possibly for undisputed at 168. Don't doubt me on that. 3 months later. Track record. It's watching a guy move for a decade and saying, yeah, I trust that dude. I trust that dude. Like we say on this podcast all the time, like we say on my channel, D-Styles channel, we are fans of actions of people, not fans of people. We are detractors of actions of people, not detractors of people. So if I see Canelo move a certain way over that, I didn't roll out of bed in 2010, 2012, 2013 and say, I'm going to be a Canelo fan today. Whatever. I'm just, for whatever reason, I'm going to be a Canelo fan. No, didn't happen. I didn't roll out of bed one day and say, you know what, I'm going to be a detractor of Tank. No, it didn't happen. I'm going to be a detractor of the PBC. No, it didn't happen. Detractors and fans of ways people move. So if I watch Canelo move a certain way over his career and go for legacy over currency, I'm going to be a fan of that. Correct? I didn't roll out of bed and just decide to start acting a certain way. GPS in Texas is ish. Errol got rerouted. It's going to take a bit longer to spin the block. It's been 5 years. For the love of God, how big is this block? How big is this block this dude is supposed to spin? Are we there yet? We're not there yet. Wait until next year. Are we there yet? Al, I'm getting uncomfortable in the back seat. Are we there yet? Wait till 2019. Al, I'm getting uncomfortable in the back seat. Are we there yet? 2020. Al, I'm getting uncomfortable in the back seat. Are we there yet? 2021. Al, he's a free agent. Across the street. Wait until 2022. Wait until we give you. It's going to be for undisputed. Let us fight this unification real quick with Ugas, and immediately we'll send the contract. Al, it's been 4.5 months. You haven't sent this dude a contract yet. Oh, just wait. We're going to send him a rough draft of a contract where we give neither fighter guaranteed money. And I'm going to advise my A-side fighter, who I've told is a super fighter, is a superstar. He's so much of a superstar that I'm going to guarantee him $0 to fight in a super fight as the A-side. They'll tell you that Errol is such a superstar. Errol is such a superstar that in the best pure fight in boxing, a super fight. Because you got to remember, Errol is bigger than Canelo in Fort Worth County. So Errol is the cash cow. So Errol is such a superstar that I'm going to advise my fighter into taking $0 guaranteed dollars as the A-side in the super fight. Thurman spins Bud with blitz boots. I don't know about Thurman, man. I think like this is like Thurman. I think like I figured it out. Thurman is like Duke basketball. Like Duke basketball 10 years ago was Duke basketball, but Duke basketball now is just the name on the front of the jersey. Duke's like ranked number 20th right now. They're not Duke basketball anymore, but some people haven't gotten the point. Like it used to be, Duke's on tonight. Cameron's going to be packed. And even when Duke didn't win the national championship, everybody treated them like the national champion the next year. Everybody. Didn't matter who won. North Carolina could have won. Arizona could have won. Maryland could have won. Michigan State could have won. Kentucky could have won. Everybody treated Duke like the national champion the next year. They got everybody's best shot. In the ratings, they were the biggest team in the ratings. Every game, ratings would be crazy. Now Duke basketball is not like that anymore. 5, 6, 7 years, we're into that to where Duke basketball isn't Duke basketball anymore. Coach K's not there. They're fighting with other players for the best fighters now. It's not a given that the best players are going to go there anymore. But some people haven't gotten the memo that Duke basketball is no longer Duke basketball. And Keith is the same way. Some people haven't gotten the memo that Keith in 2023 isn't 2017 Keith. Keith, some people haven't gotten the memo that Keith is no longer one-time Keith. He's not. When's the last time this dude's gotten a knockout? This dude literally just fought. He literally, a year ago, February of 2022, 11 months ago, almost a year ago, fought a junior welterweight at welterweight on pay-per-view. I think it did they said it did 40,000 buys. I don't know if I even believe that. He fought a junior welterweight at welterweight, a junior welterweight who literally was just knocked out by a lightweight, and he went the distance with him. And people are out there still thinking that this dude is Keith one-time Thurman. He's not. Like, I'm not joking around when I say this guy he's a full-time Tantra yoga flute player now. He's a part-time fighter. And they're all part-time fighters now, but he's even more of a part-time fighter. And some people haven't gotten the memo yet. You supported Bud versus Evanescence, but you're not going to be. At least Evanescence was active, number one. And it was a top 10 welterweight fight. This isn't even a welterweight fight. It's a junior middleweight fight. And neither one of them are ranked in junior middleweight. Neither one of them have a title at junior middleweight. That's number one. Number two, you're going to charge me twice as much. But can you please get the memo? Keith, no longer Keith. The Keith Thurman that we knew, the guy who can knock you out in one time, is no longer there. He's not there. That's Duke basketball. Duke basketball is no longer Duke basketball. Duke basketball now is a top 20 program. Used to be a top 1 or 2 program. It's not there anymore. It's not. Everybody else caught up. And everybody else in the welterweight division caught up. And that's the frustrating thing about the welterweight division is you have gatekeepers. This used to be the process, right? Is fighters who used to be at the top and who have the names, they were once 1, 2, 3 in the division, then they start to fall. Maybe a loss, maybe more inactive. They get older. That natural process happens. So they become the natural gatekeepers for younger fighters coming up. So back in the day, it would have been Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman fight guys like Boots, Virgil, Crowley, Ben. And we find out if guys like Boots, Crowley, Ben, Virgil can graduate to that next process, but they have to go through these aged fighters with names. That's how the process used to work. But it no longer works that way, apparently, because guys like Danny and Keith don't get the memo that they're no longer Danny and Keith. They obviously still believe in themselves, and that's fine. That part of it's fine. But then the power brokers still put these fighters in top fights. They still try to sell you that, yeah, Danny can win at 154. Yeah, Danny can win a middleweight belt at 155. Instead of saying, Danny, stay at 147 and fight these younger lions coming up. Let the natural process happen. Traditions exist for a reason. Traditions are solutions to problems that we forgot we once had. So when we get rid of the traditions, those problems that we never knew existed because we don't know our history eventually come back. And what the new age boxing media, new age boxing fan, they don't understand yet because they don't know their history is you have to build superstars up. You can't separate that process. You have to build them up by going through fire. You have to. And you take that process away, what are we left with? We're left with Canelo and AJ are the only superstars. And Canelo's got 3, 4, 5 years left. So the clock is ticking. AJ's losing fights. The clock is ticking. Where's the next superstar coming from? And you can only build him up sustainably through that process of going through fire. Legacy over currency, not currency over legacy. Activity, building organic fan bases by staying in people's faces. You can only build them up that way. And when you take that process away, you have a process that's not real. It's artificial. It's like a fish tank. You're not swimming through the ocean. You're not swimming through the lake. You're in a fish tank. It's an artificial process. It's an artificial atmosphere that they're building for these fighters. And they're saying, look at that. He's the biggest fish in this tank. But yeah, it's a tank. It's a tank. It's just a fish tank. I don't care if they're the biggest fish in there. Are they real? I always hear this fighter is the next that fighter. This fighter is the next that fighter. This is the best fighter we've seen since that fighter. I heard about Boots. Boots is the best pound for pound talent we've seen since Roy Jones. Boots is the best natural welterweight we've seen since Ray Leonard. And I'm watching him fight at Karen the other night, and I'm like, this is what y'all building up? You have to go through the process. You can't fight a year against average opposition and sharpen your sword. So it's becoming difficult to process who are the great fighters and who are not the great fighters, because they're not giving us a natural environment in which to judge these fighters. And they're not building organic fan bases for these fighters on the front end. And people are going to throw out Jake Paul and these guys. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Look at Jake Paul's pay-per-view numbers. I'm sure they're not even as good as they're saying. Yes, Tank can put 5 million live gate, whatever, but are those pay-per-view? Where are the pay-per-view numbers? Have we seen them for his fight with Hector? Some people are saying he did 250,000 pay-per-view last year against Raleigh. Some are saying he did 50. We don't even know what the real pay-per-view numbers are. But you can't separate that process. You still have to go the traditional route with these fighters. I'm neglecting this Catch HCP with myself and Calix Monday morning. And that's what I said at the top. Shout out to D-Style Boxing. Go over to D-Style Boxing's channel, by the way, and catch HCP 103, which happened Monday night. We are currently around 600 views on that first podcast. Huge success. And that's just coming back. 600 views on that first podcast. So watch what we're going to hit you with the coming weeks as those numbers continue to grow. So we definitely appreciate the support, and make sure to support on Beeb's channel the roundtable on Thursday night. Let's see what else we got. Al Heyman deserves criticism. PBC is a cancer of the sport, not fighting people because they're on the wrong side of the street and putting BS fights on pay-per-view and fighters only fighting once per year. I'm just left to ask as a boxing fan. Appreciate you, Black and Brown Boxing. Calix the truth, I just don't like dropping some EJ out. And it's all love, by the way. It is what it is. It's just a sport at the end of the day. We're all just venting over here following a sport. It's nothing personal with anybody or anything. I'm just left to ask, man, like, how is any of this sustainable? How is any of it sustainable? How is any of it sustainable? Like, how will we keep going with this? The inactivity, the chronic inactivity. How do you plan on building stars when a top 10 pound for pound fighter combined 14 times? Top 50 pound for pound fighter combined 69 times. Top 100 pound for pound fighter combined 130 times. How do you plan on building the sport and building stars while they're fighting on average 1.3 per year across the prism? And you even have guys coming up who are fighting 3-4 times per year. These are guys just starting off. It's trickled all the way down. How is that sustainable? And on top of that, you put more of these matchups on pay-per-view. Every single good matchup between named fighters now is going on a pay-per-view. It's going behind an extra paywall. How? And like I said, man, it's nothing personal. Like, I didn't wake up one day and just say, I'm going to start hating on PBC. Al Heyman. I definitely could have got more views, interviews with PBC fighters going the opposite way, capping on them. I don't get anything out of this. What I'll tell you is it's not a good route we're going. It's not sustainable. And how do you put every single fight like Showtime? You have a couple cards, non-preview, but when you have Wilder versus Ruiz in the spring, March, April, pay-per-view, when you have Benavidez versus Plant around the same time, pay-per-view, Errol versus Keefe around the same time, pay-per-view, Tank versus Ryan around the same time, pay-per-view. Have we had, is there precedent for this? Let's say those fights happen within a 6-week span. Is there precedent for a single outfit putting on 4 pay-per-views in a 6 to 7 week time period? Is there precedent for that? Have we seen that as boxing fans in the past? It's another question for the chat. I know this is a highly intelligent chat, so answer the question. Have you seen that as a boxing fan who's been following the sport for a while now? Have you seen it? Have you seen a run where we had 4 pay-per-views from a single outfit within 7 weeks? And I don't mind paying for this fight. But once again, people aren't doing well out there. Recession, not recession. Eggs cost like $1.50 per egg. Meat costs like $1 million per pound. And you're going to put more on the consumer, more on the boxing fan, carry this sport and sustain this sport. And you're going to wonder why more boxing fans come to the point where they ask, well, what's in this for me? Where more boxing fans are going to say, you know, I really want to support the fighters, but I really want to see the fights. And I can't support the fighter with my pocketbook. I can't pay 75 plus tax comes out to around 90. I can't pay 90 per fight, 90 per card every weekend. So I got to go out and get a hack fire stick. You're putting people in that situation. I got to go get the hack fire stick because I don't want to pay for every single pay-per-view. I don't want to do it. There's too many at this point. I can't do it. So you're putting people in a position where they want to support the fighters, but they can't support the fighters financially. So they start hacking the fights. And once again, I ask, how is that sustainable? And it's sustainable by this is becoming a country club sport. They're making this a country club sport. You have to have money in order to support these fighters, in order to support the fights. You have to have serious money to do that. Because who the hell is going to pay 90 per fight, 90 per card on a regular basis on top of the subscriptions you're already buying? Less fights, less access to fighters. How do you plan on building stars when we have less access to these fighters? We're not seeing them as much. You're charging us more to see them. And I'm supposed to continue to support that just because. Just because. Errol versus Keefe, to circle back, on the surface is a good fight. On the surface, it's a good fight. But once again, I'll throw out the analogy. It's like me walking into the bar and going up to the 6, getting her number, going on a date with her. Instead of, I know I can get the 9 or 10, but I know it'll be harder work. I know I can get the 9 or 10. It's realistic, but it's harder work. Instead of me doing that, because maybe it's harder, maybe it's more work, I just approach the 6 and I'm done with it. I'm done with it. That's what this is. There are better options for Errol than fighting your mandatory who doesn't deserve to be your mandatory in a weight class north of where the mandatory is supposed to be happening. You're fighting the 147 mandatory who hasn't won a meaningful fight since the beginning of the Trump administration. You're fighting him at 154 for none of the titles. And you're going to sit on those titles at the same time. And these young lions are not going to be able to compete for those titles as you sit on them. So forgive me as a boxing fan for asking, why am I supposed to support this? Yes, it's entertaining, but am I so beat down as a boxing fan? Am I so beat down as a boxing fan? Am I that much of Tina Turner? And like I said, like you do have this Tina complex who just keep getting slapped around and say, yeah, give me more, daddy. Pay-per-view me harder, daddy. Give me more average fights, daddy. I know you can give me better fights. I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask. Just give me the good fights. Give me some good fights, but charge me for them, daddy. Charge me harder, daddy. You guys with the Tina Turner complex, you have to drop what's love got to do with it and walk out the door. You've got to grow up here. You have to. Y'all are sitting here every night eating your ice cream. Why does he keep abusing me? Why does he keep abusing me? Maybe you should tell him something. No, I can't. I love him so much. I'm not going to. You keep eating your ice cream, watching Lifetime, instead of saying, hey, Al, give me better fights. Give me better fights. I know Keith is good. No, it's a good fight. But that fight was a fight we wanted 5 years ago. Not anymore. We want Bud. Bud's been available for a month. Bud told us a month ago, spin the block, and we're not spinning the block. Why are we not spinning the block? It seems to be a huge block because we can't spin this block for 5 years. 5 years we've been talking about spinning this block. It must be a huge block because we can't spin it. Boots said, he literally said on Twitter Monday morning, I want to fight now. I want to fight now. And Boots is an easy fight to make, even though he's not a PBC fighter. He belongs to Showtime. He has a Showtime contract, so it's an easy fight to make. Why don't we do it? There were better options. There were better options, fellas. Stephen Fulton Jr. is fighting Figueroa a second time at 126 for a belt. Why? I know it's a good fight. The first fight was good. I saw it. But I saw it already. There was undisputed on the table at 122 with MJ. It was there. It was right there. And it was makeable. But despite what they tell you, it's realistic. They'll brainwash you into thinking none of these fights are realistic. No, it's not realistic. Co-promotion. Oh, it's got Showtime. The zone. It's all realistic. They brainwashed you. All these fights are realistic. They can all be made. They don't take forever to be made either. These are all realistic fights. He could have fought MJ at 122 for undisputed. He could have fought Inoue in a small man super fight at 122. There were better options on the table. Stop walking up to the 6 at the bar when you can get the 9 or the 10. I'm telling you to have higher standards. I'm trying to care for you here. I'm trying to help you out as a boxing fan. You have better options. Have higher standards. I know what the power brokers do. The power brokers don't get me worked up anymore. It's the fans now. It's the fans who listen to this nonsense from the power brokers and they eat it up. And they come back with their fanager talk. Oh, it's about the money. It's about the money. This fight can't happen because this guy's over there and he needs to cross the street. That guy needs to cross the street and this guy needs to do this and that guy needs to do that. And you're just sitting here and like, if I wanted to hear Steven Espinoza talk, I would go on one of these Twitter spaces and listen to this dude verbally vomit from the mouth. I don't need to hear you do it. I don't need to hear you lick it up and regurgitate it. I don't need to hear that. All of these fights are realistic. They're all realistic. They can all be made. There were better options. The dude, he's going to leave 147, and leave the belts with you. If you're going to walk out the door at 147, leave the belts with you. When your wife leaves you, does she take the ring too? You let her take the ring? You bought it. She walks out the door, you snatch the ring back and you sell it. Do whatever you want with it. It's yours. You bought it. It's 140's belts. These are 147's belts. You're going to let this dude walk out of 147 with your belts without defending them for over a year. And you're just going to let him go. You're going to let this dude walk out of the weight class with those belts. Take the belts from the dude. Let somebody else battle for the belt. You don't let your wife walk out the door with her ring? No, take it back. Get on Match.com. Pawn it. Get some money or keep it. Give it to your next wife. But you don't let your wife walk out the door with the ring, fellas. You don't let the dude walk out of 147 with 147 belts and fight at 154. He literally walked out the door to fight at 154, and you're going to let this dude hold on to the belts? Welterweight, you're the sexy division welterweight. You're the sexy division welterweight. Junior middleweight's not a sexy division. Not historically. Historically, welterweight and middleweight is a sexy division. So if you're the sexy division, you don't let that chick. Dude, if you got options, you don't let that chick walk out the door with the ring. 154, let him go. Let him go. And let these belts, let these young guys, young lions fight for these belts. I got to go. I'm out of here. God bless. See y'all tomorrow. Peace.